my initial assessment of this guitar, I realised the humbucker and the bridge didn't seem to be outputting any sound. The neck single coil was working just fine. Now on this guitar we've got two switches, each switch relates to a pickup, so this switch here relates to the humbucker and this one to the single coil. Now this is a three-way switch, middle position should be off, then up and down are the pickup in opposite phases, so we can do some in and out phase sounds between these pickups. Now the single coil in the neck, if I've got that switch down, we get a loud popping noise to the amplifier. So that is active, it's going through the common master and tone controls out to the amplifier. So we should be getting the same through the humbucker, but we're not. That means that either the humbucker itself is faulty or most likely that switch is. So we're going to get inside this now and see which that is. Now I want to ascertain whether it's the pickup or the switch that's at fault here. Most likely it's the switch, but we can't rule out the possibility of it being the humbucker just yet. So I'm going to use my multimeter. I've got it set to 20 kilo ohm setting because a humbucker at standard is usually around 8 kilo ohms. And I've got my test probes, and we've got a grey cable coming from the pickup here. That's going to be our output. So I can see that the ground wire is here and the hot wire is here. And there we go, jumping up on our screen on our multimeter is 7.84 kilo ohms. So that is pretty standard, just below our 8K for the humbucker. So the humbucker seems to be outputting correctly, so there's no flaw in the bucker itself. The flaw is going to come within the switch. Now, the flaws in the switch could be corrosion inside the switch itself and the contacts are just not being made. Or it could be cold solder joints along here that aren't connecting wires properly. So my first port of call is to rewire the switch entirely, because if it is cold solder joints, then redoing those should spring it back into life. And if that doesn't work, then we'll have to replace the entire switch. So I checked for the cold solder joints, but it turned out it was indeed the switch that was the problem. This thing just isn't functioning, so it's obviously corroded somewhere on the inside, and that's it gone. So brand new switch in place. So does it work? Does it work? Let's have a look. Let's turn this scratch plate over and try our test again. So I've got the new switch, selected to down, so this humbucker should pop. It does, that's fantastic. So we have two fully working pickups now. Excellent, so we can get back to setting up this guitar, getting the strings on it, and see how it goes. We can see here that some of the bushings are missing on the peg head. Now that was causing problems when the tuning posts were through, the strings were on, the tuning posts were being pulled against the wood at these points. That was bad for tuning and tuning stability. So I got a set of Fender replacement bushings, like these ones here, and I'm going to install them along here as replacements. However, these were brand new, so they were shiny and chrome, and these ones are 20 years old, so that they're tarnished. So what can we do to make these look a little bit more natural against these? Well, I've got these micro mesh finishing pads. I use those for polishing up frets. So I've got a few different grades of those. So a fairly rough one, and I buffed up these bushings just a little bit, just to take some of the surface off them, as if they've been used a little bit used, a little bit abused. And then I suspended these over a vat of white vinegar, and the acid fumes on there sort of tarnish the metal slightly, just a little bit, so it doesn't look quite as shiny and new. So those will sit a lot nicer alongside the old bushings than the shiny new chrome ones would have. So that's the Fender Jag-Stang set back up. We've got those bushings pushed in at the headstock. We've got the new switch in place on the pickguard, and strings are on, and she plays fantastically. So notes are no longer fretting out on the fretboard, everything plays as it should, all the bends bend as they should, so we can do things like this. And it's all fine, whereas before that would have been just hitting off frets and then not playing. So the guitar is now a wonderful little instrument. So I guess you want to hear what it sounds like properly, so considering this was a design by a certain Kurt Cobain, and there's really only a few things I can play on this guitar, really, isn't there? So there we go, another guitar back to working order. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see all my content I'm bringing out. Also available on the Facebook, Google+, Twitter, all the other stuff. Leave a comment in the comment section below as well. That's all for this now, guys. So take care and keep it loud.